You might have had some more time to go through the segments, but on a broader basis, revenue a miss despite Q4 usually seeing a pickup in execution. What do you make of the miss on the revenue front?
Well, Gautam, I don't think that it is, a complete miss on the revenue front. More or less, I think the company guided this particular revenue, and I think as you rightly put across, I think some 300 crore worth of number has been a short number on the revenue actually reported by the company. Now, this could be possible because of some delay in uplifting of material or some delay in execution of some projects which may happen in the subsequent quarter. I'm not too much, worried about that particular aspect, but I'm really very keen to understand, one single aspect, that if the orders are going to get delayed for execution because of whatever the environmental related issues which are continuing in this country and non-clearance of the projects, etc. I think if that is going to have a telling impact on the company's performance in FY12, then I would be certainly worried, because as of now we believe that we would continue to expect L&T growing at around 15% year over year in FY12, and that would translate to a profit of somewhere around 4,100 crores for the full year of FY12 over last year, or a little more than that. I think then still the stock is looking somewhat expensive in that kind of a situation unless they really pick up at some point of time during the course of this year. And for that to happen, I think you need to see faster execution of orders under the proper clearances, and that is what I want to understand from the management when they come out with.
Deven, what's your expectation for FY12 on the revenue front? You said about 15%, and on the order inflow guidance, what kind of numbers would you expect given what L&T has performed in FY11?
I think 20% would be a reasonable kind of a call given the kind of projects which are there in pipeline in the country, and that should be possible that they may have 20% kind of inflow of orders continuing. I'm repeating, I'm not too much worried about number of orders, because I think you already have a larger visibility on order front side. What is required is execution, and if execution takes place, probably it can surpass our own estimates of 15%. It could probably go much above that.
Visibility, of course, is 2.5 times of the full year sales. Rima is also here with me. Rima, if you have anything for the guests.
Indeed, Mr. Choksey, I want to understand, when we hear from the management, at what level of revenue or even order, which if you don't get to hear that if suppose if they guide for about a 10% revenue growth or even about a 15% order book growth, what would go down as a complete miss for the the market in terms of the guidance that L&T management sets out?
Well, I think it would be hard to put a number for the market expectation, but in my viewpoint, I think anything which is 15% and below kind of a growth on the top line and the bottom line would certainly be seen as a negative by the market, because that means that the stock is trading at a relatively higher valuation, and market would want it to get corrected, if not fully. I think in price front, at least on the time front, the stock would drag. So that would be the disappointment as far as the market is concerned.
And Mr. Choksey, would you be very worried, because even the management commentary has indicated that they are seeing spiraling input cost pressure. So if there is a big margin decline, would that be a big problem for L&T in terms of a market expectation?
According to me, the input cost pressure has been even there in the last quarter, and I think they have been facing this particular pressure. If my reading is right, if the commodity prices are going to come down going forward, then in such situation, I think that social pressure will only, get reduced and it will not increase. That is the first point. Second thing, in majority of the orders of L&T, which I understand, I think they have a pass-through cost, which means I think escalations are indeed passed over to the customers, and that is the clause as far as the contract is concerned, when they take it. So I would not be too much worried, and the last quarter result is actually validating that particular point, that they have been able to produce or generate little less revenue compared to their expected completion targets, but they have not compromised on the margin. So I think I would like to see that particular part continuing, and would get validated when management comes out and talk on the subject.
A valid point made here by Mr. Choksey. Jagannatham Thungundla is still with us. Jagannatham, comment on this. The margins at 15%, commodity prices not really affecting. Price escalation clauses really seem to have helped L&T, and it's not compromising on margins.
That's right, and with a 1,30,000 crore order book, even about 3 years of equivalent sales visibility is there. So visibility front of order book is not a major concern, and its order execution is a challenge. And just to draw, for example, a big project that has given a lot of excitement to the stock, which was Hyderabad Metro, which they factored in about 9% financing cost. And now after 2-3 rounds of increase by the RBI, now the financing cost is working out to about 11.25%. So the original 14,000 crore that that project itself has shot up to 18,000 crores. So what's the point I'm trying to draw the inference is next upcoming RBI 2-3 rounds more interest rate hike should also put pressure on the margins going forward. So overall, so to speak, I think the overall conditions are not that conducive, but having said that, still the order book is quite sizable, and if execution is achievable, then everything else falls in place.
A valid point here, because the interest costs are very flat year on year, just a 0.5% growth in interest costs on a quarter on quarter basis. In fact, they've gone down by 22%, so that comes as a bit of a surprise. In fact, L&T is into the green now, so the only thing that you need to watch out for perhaps is what the management has to say, because the Q4 number, despite being a small miss on the revenue front, net it doesn't look like a very bad picture. 28,000 crores plus of order inflow growth, and you have a decent margin picture despite all the raw material costs having gone up, so the street doesn't seem to be very disappointed with L&T. And the point since morning that most of our experts have been making is that we had gone into L&T's earnings with very low expectations. That perhaps is helping the stock at this point. We have an analyst, Nidhi Agarwal of Sher Khan, joining us on the line from Mumbai. Nidhi, thanks for joining us. Your first take on the L&T numbers, not very disappointed?
It's actually disappointing on revenue front as well as on PAT front. But what is positive, surprising is its margin. It has maintained a very good margin, 13% plus kind of margin. Overall results have been good. They are also boosted by other income. So other income is very good, 650 crores around. So order intake is also good, 30,000 crores. I feel like this quarter was slightly impacted by overall economic scenario, but going ahead, things are looking good. It's not as bad as for L&T.
Nidhi, the stock is still trying to find its feet. It went down, now it's recovered a whole lot. What would you ascribe as the fair value of L&T right now? It stands at about 1,512.
Yeah, I think this is a good level. The stock has already seen quite a fall in the last few months. So currently it's sort of looking bottomed out. So this, I think, is a good level to enter the stock also. And another thing is that people were worried about interest cost, and in fact the interest cost has gone now this quarter. So it is not so much worrying on the working capital front also.
And what are you going in with your expectations in terms of sales and also in terms of an order book for FY12, the kind of order booking that they can do before we go into and find out what the management has to say? What are your expectations?
I feel 15% plus growth should be, should be there with the current order book. But if they give something like 20%, 25%, it will be, a good surprise to look at.
In fact, the stock Gautam is now moving higher as we speak. It's up about 1.2%. The L&T intraday will also come up for you on your screen. It's been a very volatile ever since the numbers came out, and now suddenly it's moving higher, Gautam.